MLB Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Nick Rodriguez at N Rodriguez DFS, taking a look at the night slate 7 and 7:05 and on. 5-gamer, looking at pitching, and really there's one elite arm on the hill, and then it's followed by some pretty subpar arms, but they do have a few that are in great matchups. Jumping right into things, we're looking at the 7:05 start. Max Scherzer take on Aaron Nola, 6.5 over under. Washington strong favorites, -176 there. Scherzer on the road. He's struggled in his first 2 starts so far this season, taking on the Braves, and hasn't really met the price tag that he's up there for. And I'm looking on DK, and I think this is going to be one of those times where I have no problem rostering him on FanDuel. Scherzer, I think 13,000 is a little steep, although there are some cheap options to pair up with him. I don't think you have to.
Yeah, I'm with you there. He's more of a FanDuel play for me. You mentioned that 13K price range, but I think he's one of the guys with the most upside on this slate as far as strikeout potential, because he has a K rate of 29.3%, and nobody comes near him. After that, the next closest is 22.9, which is Johnny Cueto. So there's a huge difference there between strikeout, but you mentioned that high price tag, and that's scaring me away as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you kind of look at last night. Obviously, they were more tougher matchups, but you look at really Sale was the only one to pay off that high price tag, and you look at Kershaw. He was up over 13K against the Giants lineup. That wasn't too particularly thrilling to look against. So still, I think that he really has to go off to hit that price tag. There are some decent options you can pay up for some bats, but as you mentioned, that big strikeout rate, no one comes close. And you look at the Phillies offense, dating back to the beginning of last year, they rank 29th in WOBA against right-handed pitching, and do have a 21% strikeout rate. So definitely a lineup that he can breeze through. He is your preferred play. Definitely an easy play on FanDuel, just because you can. It's a little bit softer pricing, and you're just dealing with one arm there.
Exactly. Cash game, I think he's the guy, but I'm actually looking at Aaron Nola for tournaments. He's been pitching well for the Phillies, 21.4% strikeout rate. Like you mentioned, a 6.5 total, so it's going to be low scoring, and Aaron Nola's a good young pitcher for the Phillies.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. I mean, I like that price tag, and he's come out swinging here early on the first 2 starts there, although they were against the Reds and the Padres, but he's looked good. And you look at this Nationals offense, they aren't a threatening offense. Going back to last year, a 22% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching, and really outside of Daniel Murphy and Bryce Harper on that left side, they don't have a ton to work with. Obviously, they had a big night last night, but this offense is still below average.
Yeah, besides those 2 guys, those are the only 2 threats against right-handed pitchers.
Yeah, and I think 7,900 definitely an interesting swerve, because I think Shelby Miller is going to be the popular play tonight going up against the Padres.
Yeah, him and Shelby for a tournament, I like that call, and you can build some nice bats around that.
Yeah, definitely. Next one here, 7:05, we got Taylor Youngman against John Neese. Pittsburgh strong favorites, -155, 7.5 over under. Really looking at one arm in this one. That's John Neese, the lefty there. It's not a bad matchup against the Brewers. If he can work his way around, Ryan Braun and Lucroy and Santana up top, and Chris Carter as well. But this Milwaukee team, dating back to last year, 28th in WOBA, a big 22.6% strikeout rate. Neese looked good at the beginning of his first start, and then kind of struggled towards the later innings. But still, I mean, he's an arm that can go out there and throw a quality start, and he's cheap. And on the slate where maybe you want to pay up for some hitters, don't want to pay all the way up for Scherzer, I think Neese is certainly in play, especially if you even wanted to pair him with Scherzer.
Yeah, I think he's an excellent starting pitcher too. I'd probably fade away him on FanDuel just because I like a little more arms there. But like you mentioned, that 6,800 price tag is very intriguing. The first start, you said he looked very good, and then St. Louis got on him. The second start, he looked better against a very good Detroit team that kills southpaws. He finished with 6 innings and 5 strikeouts. So I can see him putting up similar numbers against a much worse lineup in the Brewers.
Yeah, definitely. I think that line against Detroit should be his kind of his low point, if anything, and that's still pretty solid. He scored 18 DK points. You look at this Brewers lineup, definitely not in comparison to Detroit.
Yeah.
So he should be able to go out and get the job done. Plus, he has PNC backing him. Vegas is a strong favorite there, so I do like him a lot tonight.
Yeah, especially if Taylor Jugman has another bad start. The Pirates can get ahead early, and now they'll let John East pitch comfortably. Every pitcher loves a lead. So, and a win is 4 extra points, which is huge.
Yeah, definitely. Next one here, you got Justin Verlander and Colin McHugh. Vegas has this one as pretty high scoring. You're looking at 8.5. Houston, small favorites, -124. Both these guys have, well, more so on Justin Verlander's side, strikeout upside. You're going back to last year, and Houston does have a really high strikeout rate, 23.9% against right-handers. Verlander kind of lost some velocity here, but overall, I mean, he is a guy who can miss some bats. Had a 10% swinging strike rate last year, but he is also a minute made as far as, we saw home runs go out for most part last year to right-handed and left-handed bats. But Verlander, he is a guy who can have that big tournament upside, and that's probably where he'll be for me tonight. Just going up against this Houston Astros lineup that really is kind of boom or bust at times.
Yeah, he's honestly my favorite tournament play of the day, FanDuel and DraftKings, regardless of the site. You mentioned Houston. They had the most strikeouts in the league last season. They were top 5. Verlander, we know, occasionally can strike out a bunch of guys. And Vegas doesn't seem to like him, which will throw a lot of guys off him, which is perfect for tournaments.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Verlander, he was solid in his first outing. Second one, he was lit up by Pittsburgh, and I think this is what he's going to be for most of the year. He's going to be completely up and down. You never know what you're going to get for him. So you got to hope good Verlander shows up and he has all this stuff working. But on the other side of things, Colin McHugh against this Tiger team, I'm kind of staying away from. What about you?
No, he's a very solid pitcher, but this Detroit lineup scares me. He looked terrible the first game, looked amazing the second game. So it's like Justin Verlander. You got to pick him on the right day, but I think today's Verlander's day.
Yeah, it's just not the right matchup for McHugh on another day. Maybe we'd be taking a stronger look at him. But you got the next one here: Braves and Marlins. Bud Norris against Tom Kohler. Miami strong favorites in this one, -151, 7.5 over under. Kohler's an interesting play. If you wanted to swerve off Nice, if you even wanted to put both, or if you want, I view them kind of equal tonight. I think both are in a good chance to get the win. They both have a nice opponent to pick on. The only thing is Atlanta doesn't strike out a ton. I don't see Kohler getting a ton of strikeouts, but a quality start should be in line for him with a win.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm not a huge Kohler guy. I think Nice is a better play. I know Atlanta. I know we don't like to look at batter versus pitcher, but they've owned Kohler in his career. He's a nice starting pitcher too on DraftKings, but I prefer Nice, honestly.
Yeah, I think with Nice right there, he's definitely your preferred play. Nice has more of a strikeout upside against Milwaukee, PNC Park backing them, but both are strong favorites. But yeah, I tend to agree with you there.
Yeah, and Bud Norris is another guy that's interesting. I'm definitely not targeting him for cash. Maybe a tournament with how inconsistent the Marlins offense has been to start the year.
Yeah, Bud Norris, he's faced Washington twice this season. He had a solid start at the beginning. He was a guy who was kind of frustrating because you usually picked on him a lot last year with hitters. Every now and then he would throw a gem, but yeah, he's a guy. I think tonight I'll be overlooking him. If it was a smaller slate, maybe I'd take a look. I know this Marlins offense is up and down at times, but they seem to be a little bit better than last year. The top of the lineup's been producing so far to start the year.
Yeah, especially on the road, we're not sure how Bud Norris is going to pitch, but I don't know. I keep going back to Nice. I think he's the better play between these two guys.
Yeah, definitely. 8:05, you got Giovanni Gallardo, Colby Lewis, big over under of 9.5. We can skip right there. I'm not taking any two of those guys.
Gallardo going back to his. Was this game in Baltimore?
No, it's in Texas.
Yeah, he's going back to his old team. You
Yeah,
don't
I
like
mean,
that narrative game?
oh man, I think this one's going to be an offensive show.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either guy. Just trying to give Gallardo some love here.
840. Looking at Shelby Miller. This game is essentially a pick 'em. San Diego small favorites -104. Over under a 7. You got to like Miller on this side. Struggled so far to start the year, but really, I mean, facing a Cubs offense, facing a Padres offense that really is just abysmal. Strikeout rates high. They don't put any runs together. I'll be looking at Miller to come away with a quality start, and I love his price tag tonight. I just think he's by far one of your safer cash game options, and if you don't want to fully pay up for Scherzer, Miller's the next step down for me.
Yeah, I think he's the next best cash option. San Diego has struggled big time offensively. I'm expecting him to put up similar numbers to Zach Greinke, which is good from his price tag perspective. Um, I'm with you there. I think Shelby Miller is the top cash play outside of Scherzer.
Yep, definitely. And on the other side of things, if you wanted to get different, Andrew Kashner, I mean, he is a guy who's been up and down at times. Doesn't have quite the stuff that he used to. Struggled with the long ball last year, but he is a guy who can miss some bats at times. The Diamondbacks offense is fairly good, but they do have a decent strikeout rate as well. GPPs, I think people will be pretty much off of Kashner, but he is a guy who's worth a look in tournaments, especially if you're building multiple lineups.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Especially his first start, he looked horrendous. Second start, he picked it up against the Phillies. Like you mentioned, his D-backs offense outside of Goldschmidt and Peralta is pretty inconsistent. So I can see him having a quality start as well.
Yeah. Next one here, you got two quality arms, Johnny Cueto, Scott Kazmir, but over under a 7, I think there's a decent quality line for both of them in there. I don't think they pay off their price tag. That's just my biggest thing tonight. And looking at Kazmir, I think Miller, being around that Miller price tag, I just prefer him a little bit more. As far as Cueto goes, he just sits right in between those bottom guys and Scherzer. I might as well pay up for Scherzer. I can't see Cueto, paying off that price tag either.
Yeah, I honestly think Vegas was pretty generous to the over-under of just 7. I think it's going to be a lot higher. I'm personally not a fan of either of the pitchers. If I had to choose between one, it would probably be Kazmir, but I'm not going with any of them. I think they're both risky tournament plays.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Both those matchups against the Dodgers and Giants, Giants do eat left-handed pitchers alive. Looking at all those Dodger lefties against Cueto, I'm definitely a bit concerned in Dodger Stadium as well. It's not out there in AT&T Park, so yeah, I'm with you there. I think tournament only. I'll probably be limiting my exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's going to wrap it up here with the pitcher nail down. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.